Bruce, I'll turn the time over to you.
All right. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Hey, good to see everybody here. Tonight is a member night critique where we can take a look at some photos. We had 8 people send in over 20 photos. And a member night is an opportunity for you to get feedback from your peers. This isn't judged. Well, we will be looking at the photos and have different ideas for you. These are ideas that you can take or leave. It's just another chance for somebody to look at your photo, give their feedback, and other people who have thoughts can jump in as well. I've asked Deborah Sibley and David Fickey and myself to take a look. We've divvied up the photos. I've also asked Frank to jump in when he has when he sees something that maybe we don't, or to emphasize something to help improve. The goal tonight is to help us improve our photography by taking a look critically. And I mean critically, not in the sense of we want to tear something down, but we want to look at it specifically, something that we can do to, if you know, maybe you need to work on your cropping, or maybe you need to look at some other aspect of photography when it comes to your editing. And that's what we have. So we're going to start off with Dave. Dave, you want to go ahead and share your screen, and we can take a look at the pictures that were passed on to you. I see your screen, Dave. Are you muted? I don't hear your voice.
There we go. So I will share, and are we all connected?
We can see you. All you need to do is now is play your slideshow.
Okay.
Bruce, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Would everybody else take a moment, other than the people that are presenting, or if someone has a question, would you make sure you mute yourself so that way we can have the individuals talk about the photos and it will not bounce back and forth between different people talking?
Okay. Kelly, I don't know if you're here or not, but you know, Morro Bay, Morro Rock, way cool. I have friends that live in Morro Bay, and for the last 15 years, my wife and I go up 3 or 4 times a year, and beautiful shot. This was taken in the morning and with the boats moored out in the bay, and that's really cool. But one of the problems I have here is that the sky apparently is not your friend. It's a lot of blank space. It looks like you have oversaturated things a little bit in the blues and such. So my ideas was, okay, number one, there are people who proclaim and, you know, use sky replacement software. I personally am not one who subscribes to that because to me it kind of alters the image too much, and in many national and world competitions it would not be accepted. But here's some of the things that I have done with this image. One, as you can see, I cropped it. I wanted the rock and the bay with the sailing boats to be the actual image of the picture and not so much of the sky. I took out some of the blue saturation to make it a little bit more somewhat natural. I dropped the highlights a bit, especially for the mast. They were kind of really white and blown out, and I toned that down a hair. And then I opened up the shadows to pick up the whole of the boats down here so that you can actually see them instead of them being almost black. one of the things that I see is that, because I'm there so much, is that there's a layer of fog going way out here, probably about 5 miles out. But then there's a layer of fog just over the top of Morro Rock. And, I tried, and I'm not proficient at necessarily Photoshop and bringing that out, but it would have been really cool if you could have somehow brought out the fog at the top of the rock here, and so that people could go, oh, wow, look at that, which is part of the story. For me, taking photographs of Morro Bay, Morro Rock, I always wait till the evening. The sun is setting somewhere between, out here in the wintertime and way over here in the summertime. And in the wintertime, oftentimes you get clouds and such, which really make the image. So those are some of my adjustments. I really like the picture. It is quintessential Morro Bay. And anybody who's been there, like, oh yeah, look at that. The sailboats and the rock, way cool. Just my thoughts.
Dave, that's great. One of the things that with all of these photos that I've noticed is sometimes it's less about the editing and more about either the time of day or the time of year that somebody took the photo. They could be standing in the same spot using the same settings, but at a different time of day or a different time of year, and had totally different results.
Exactly. The Morro Rock is one of those things for me that you go out there about an hour or half hour before sunset, and sometimes you can see the green flash from the sunset. Sometimes you can't because of the fog laying out here. But regardless, wintertime and fall, you get the clouds. In the summertime, it's pretty much almost all foggy unless it burns out in the middle of the day. So this is a morning shot. It's nice. Again, quintessential of what Morro Rock looks like. And it's a nice picture. Okay. The second photograph. Kelly, I really like this one. I like the way the Joshua tree is highlighted here. You've got nice pinpoint dots for the stars and a little bit of the Milky Way. That really kind of makes it, for me, way cool. A couple of things that part of me is saying that this rock here and the rock over here are competing with the Joshua tree. And gosh darn it, it's a great Joshua tree picture. I like the lighting. I like the background here. But this rock seems to be taking away from the Joshua tree. Maybe not so much this one, but definitely this one. So my suggestion would be to somehow find another Joshua tree or move to I don't know if you could move to the right, because if you move to the right, you would lose this part of the Milky Way. And if you move to the left, this rock would fall behind the Joshua tree. So maybe picking a different one would have been great. And another suggestion is go back when the blossoms of the Joshua tree are in full bloom. Their cream colored whiteness would just, wow, that would really pop out and really kind of make a statement without the rock here. Okay. So that's just my suggestions. Okay.
I have a suggestion, if I might. One of the primary keys to light painting is to never do your light painting from near the camera. Get away from the camera, use side lighting, use backlighting, and you will increase the interest expressed by the lighting 100-fold. If you're turning your flashlight on near the camera, please don't.
So Frank, I would say, yeah, I usually am at a 45-degree angle. So I'm moving farther away to make sure that I've cast some sort of shadows onto what I'm shooting.
Yeah, side lighting brings out detail in the subject. Backlighting really makes it pop with drama. One other thing, Dave mentioned that the two rocks are too strong. You can, in image editing, you can darken those down a bit, and that would take care of that.
Okay,
I just want to say that Rick, Sturbaugh and Deborah took me out. This is the first time I've ever shot the Milky Way and ever did light painting at the same time. First time for both. So I appreciate all your comments, and I agree the rocks are standing out a little too much to the tree, and yeah, some dodging and burning in that in Photoshop would have worked wonders on those rocks.
Oh, that's terrific. How did you like shooting the Milky Way?
It was fun. And I'm going to Bryce over July 4th weekend, so I can't wait to go out and shoot again.
Enjoy it.
okay, the next image. This is Kelly's again. I love macro. I really enjoy taking flower shots and such myself. To me, you can see the anthers, the pistils, stamens, really clear right in this area. And that's, really cool because that's the reproductive part of the flower. The petals, okay, although they're very, very colorful and they're really nice, part of me would like to have seen this cropped, real small and tight around the reproductive part of the flower, okay? It also appears that this section here is a little bit of soft, out of focus, but as you can see the stamens here, I can almost see pollen grains on top of the pistils or stamens here, which is pretty cool. So I would have probably just cropped this, something like that, and just left out the rest of it. You have this distraction over here, but once again, if you've cropped it, that would have been cool. And maybe practice a couple more times with photo stacking so that you can get from about in this area here all the way towards you, this area here in focus. And I think it would have been a stunning picture. It's a good picture already, but I think it would have been.
The picture?
Say again? Say again?
Don't know.
Okay. Now, we move to Stephanie's. Okay, I love the black and white. I like the way the sky is, but part of me says, nah, I'm not so crazy. I am not crazy about the silhouette type part of the trees and the bushes. And of course, these two lights here are, my eyes go straight to them. And so here's what I did with this image. Okay, number one, I went in the Lightroom and I opened it up to where I had the sky mask. And I adjusted the sky mask to where I added a little bit more contrast and opened up the shadows a bit and reduced the highlights. Okay. And then, and here we go. And then I inverted it and I took out some of the whiteness right here in the highlights. I increased the shadows over here. And then I opened it up into Photoshop and I used Content Aware to take out the two bright lights. Now, I didn't take my time to really concentrate on doing it 100% correct, but the idea was to take out the bright lights because, as you can see in the original, it's just so dominating. And I wanted to take away that distraction and open up the shadows here. And that's just my view of what I think I would have done. Okay.
Interesting on it's an interesting crop. What I'm seeing here, it's not a, it's not a 5x7, it's not an 8x10, it's not even a 16x9. I'm sure you could get this produced somewhere, but they would need to crop it, I would imagine.
You know, and you're right, maybe cropping it either right over here, because it looks like it's almost 1 by 2.5 instead of 1 by 3. I didn't check, but you're right. It's the building is right dead center. So if you cropped it maybe over here, it would push the building a little bit more to the left. And, you know, but then again, if I would have cropped it over here, it would keep these clouds that are really stunning more and push the building to the right. Part of me would have said, try to crop it right about here. And you had the tree, the building pushed to the right, and the clouds, and then take out the lights. Just my thoughts.
Frank,
Please
what are you
don't-
seeing?
Please don't ever limit yourself to some printer's idea of a standard size. You can get your prints made any size you want.
Yeah.
And if the lab can't do it, you're using the wrong lab. You might have to go to the next size up and then cut the image from the larger sheet of paper, but don't sacrifice your idea of the crop to some printer's idea of what a standard size should be. I agree with Dave. This looks great as a panorama.
Okay, and that's the final, or what I did. Notice that the clouds right here are accentuated a lot more, and I think it adds drama. This being a black and white, another thing I would have played with was the different, how do I say it, pre-programmed black and white images that are already in Lightroom. To just, you know, that this one, maybe I like it, but maybe if I checked one of the other pre-programmed black and whites, I would have liked it even more. But, you know, once again, that's the image maker's choice. Okay. And this one here, Stephanie, you know, I understand that the category X is a, help me, Bruce, I forgot what it is.
Inspirational.
Okay, Stephanie, you did a kick butt job on this one. It's provocative. It's engaging. I love it. Okay. You know, at first, before I knew that it was a poster type thing, I thought, well, you know, this is photojournalism. But then I was told of the topic and I went, oh, this is beautiful. It's excellent. I don't know. I think I would have maybe highlighted the wording a little bit more so that people don't have to strain to see it, which I know are the titles of the books, but the image itself, even if you cut it off right here, wow, it makes a statement. I love it. I love it. Good job.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see where she shot that.
Yeah, 'cause she owned all those books.
Likewise.
Yeah, I
And
own some.
And has she read them? So anyway, the next image, Wayne. This is way cool. For photojournalism, I look at it as it's like there's a story going on here. You know, the two women are conversing. I can see that, and you got this dog here giving you the look, which is way cool. Part of the problem is in photojournalism, not a whole lot you can do in editing, except for the most part of changing some highlights, cropping, etc. So what I did is I took out, okay, first of all, these wires, they're not doing you anything wonderful in the image, and they're distracting. So since I could crop it and take out part of this, the only problem here is this person and the dog in the background. Okay, fine, you know, maybe this is a park and such going on, but once again, your subject is the two women and the dogs, and the woman or the person in the background with the dog is enough out of focus and soft that it's not that distracting because the focus is your subject. And I like it. I like it really. And basically all I did was crop it, tone down the highlights just a hair so that the dogs would not turn in this white part here gray, keep them white, even though the shadowing is already gray here. That's cool. And that's it. All I did is
Wayne-
crop it and take down the highlights in here.
To the maker, do you have a title for this shot?
That's Wayne Purcell.
I do not. No, I have not given that any thought.
This is a shot that a title can be very important for. Dave's comments are right on. The title that pops up to me is, "What are you looking at?"
Yeah. Very good, Frank. Very good.
I like it. Yeah.
Wayne,
That's
you can
great.
probably come up with.
And Wayne, I have a couple of your images that I'll be looking at a little bit later. Dave, do you have anything else? Any closing comments?
No, I enjoyed, thank you for inviting me to participate. I really enjoyed looking at the images. And I hope, even though they're just my opinion, I hope it was constructive for the makers and that maybe they take something from it.
Excellent. So while you you can stop sharing your screen. Awesome. Now, Deborah's going to be going next. And one of the things that you'll find is just like photographs, photographs have different personalities. People have different personalities.
What are you
different levels of
saying there, Bruce?
detail. And so Deborah's going to be going over her edits. Make sure you go ahead and hit play on your, so it's a little bit bigger for us.
I know how to do that.
All right, good job. All right, looking forward to seeing your review here, Deb.
Okay. So I have this lovely photo, this charming photo from Dorothy Cunningham. You're still on, aren't you, Dorothy? I think she is, but I was envious. I thought, gee, I wish I was there and had seen this action. I've seen the breeding egrets, but I've never seen them feeding. So I like this image. It didn't bother me that the back was cut off a little bit here, but what did bother me is that it is not sharply focused. When you really look at the metadata, I can see Dorothy shot it at ISO 400 or f9, but her shutter speed was at 1/25th of a second. And I'm guessing she had a longer lens on, and I think that's just a bit slow for the action that was happening. You could see it in some close-ups later. The other thing that bothered me was this murkiness here in the middle of the photo. So, but I think these can all be addressed. So to address the background, I actually went into Lightroom, did this subject selection. I thought was fabulous. I inverted it and then moved the highlights and temperature sliders or whatever to try to address that background. And here is the before and after of that. You could see, I think you could see that I like this a little bit better. It's a little darker. I think the birds turned a little blue, so I might go back in and reselect that subject and warm them up a little bit, but that's me. So to address the motion blur and focus issues, I took it into Topaz AR Sharp, and I know not everybody has that, but I really love that, and it does, I think, some remarkable work. Here you can see some of the sharpening in these feathers. You can see it here in these feathers. You look in the motion blur addressed here. So I think it does a great job.
That is remarkable.
Yeah, it is remarkable, isn't it? I have to say I put almost everything through denoise now just to sharpen it. So, but even the motion blur, it's much better here. So, and I didn't do anything fancy. I just let it choose its auto setting, and I was satisfied with that. So I think it's much sharper and the motion blur is less. But since this is a nature shot, the degree of manipulation and post-processing might be dictated by its use. Some image competitions allow you to do some basic development, some dodging, some burning, some cropping, but they would disallow any cloning or addition or the removal of subjects. So if you are doing it or using it or don't care, I went ahead and did a little further manipulation on this, and I moved it into Photoshop, use that content aware fill to try to address these areas. I did this one, but I didn't like it. So on the next photo, you'll see I just left that. And then I burned down the corner here of this photo here. So there is with the leaves removed and the little twig removed. And I also, here's with the removal, but I still thought there was this murkiness in the background. So in Lightroom, I was able to get it to look a little cleaner there, a little crisper. And you probably can't see the sliders because the gallery view, at least on my screen, the gallery view is over it, but it wasn't, with clarity, dehaze, deepening the shadows. That was all I did, nothing particularly fancy on that. So that was, I thought it was a delightful photo. I'm not certain if in competition you wouldn't be dinged on the lack of focus, but I think it's much better if once you process it there. So any questions from anybody?
Thank you very much.
If not, was that helpful, Dorothy?
Yes, it was. Thank you.
I think it's a really charming photo, and I'm so envious. I thought, how come I always miss the feeding?
I took that at the alligator farm in yes, in Florida.
In Florida?
Yes.
Yeah, I was recently there and went to the rookery in Venice and got some photos of all the egrets in mating colors, but the little ones were either, they weren't feeding anyway. I didn't even see any small ones. So, but
That's exciting.
yeah.
Thank you.
So the next three images that I'm looking at were sent to me or were submitted by Bob Walls, and Bruce tells me Bob is a new member of RCC. I don't know if Bob, I looked at the participants, I don't know if Bob is the same as Coach Walls, but I'm thinking perhaps. Everything was sent in a JPEG format, and I'm not certain why, but some of the tools in Photoshop and Lightroom didn't work very well on some of the photos, but there was still some possibilities for change and, in my opinion, some improvement. So this photo, I'm thinking this is at Kimberly Crest. Am I wrong? It looks familiar to me, but anyway, I liked that the background was nicely blurred. I like this blue patina here, and I thought the close crop was an interesting perspective, one I haven't seen particularly often. What I would address was the urns here on both sides, the arbor, what I thought was this dark clump of trees here, and this bird dropping. I don't know, Bob, it was just a little too much for me, and I like birds. So I did a crop. I figured and cropped out those urns, and did some basic adjustments. There were some spider webs that I removed. They weren't particularly attractive in my mind. They were just lines of spider webs. And I opened the shadows because there was a lot of shadow on the face, during the time of day that this was taken. The face was really shadowed. Decreased the exposure and highlights. I also selected the subject and then inverted the background and tried to decrease the contrast and clarity in the background a little bit more in Lightroom. So then I took it into Photoshop and used the content aware fill to try to remove the arbors. You can see this one did a pretty good job. This one was a little harder to remove, but it worked. And then I cloned in some trees under the blue space here that kind of bothered me, that it was empty. It looked empty to me. So then I kept looking at it, and then the tree in the sky I thought was distracting, this over here. So I removed it using a combination of content aware fill, healing brush, and painting. And I just kind of go back and forth and just work through with all of those tools to try to get that out of there. So that's with it removed, but I thought the dark clump was distracting still. So I went back into Photoshop and cloned it out, cloning from this as the source, and then using the healing brush and painting and cloning to remove that. So there's the finished images, warm or cool, you choose, but I personally like the warm a little bit better, but those were my suggestions on what can be addressed. I also removed this big bird dropping that was here. questions, comments, too much, too little, too?
Now, it just goes to show that, there's a lot more than just hitting, the auto fix,
Yeah, yeah, right.
If-
The auto fix, right?
there's some work that you can put in. And so this is where you got to really master your tools, be familiar with them, not be afraid to experiment. And you work your way up as you're gaining proficiency. Nicely done.
I don't do anything fancy in either Lightroom or Photoshop, just some basic things. So I don't know. I don't want it to sound like I am an expert or like I know really what I'm really doing. I sort of know what I'm doing, but it's nothing fancy. It's nothing anyone can't learn. I guess that's it. So,
Deb, those are terrific enhancements. Bob, but one suggestion, go back up to Kimberly Crest after the next rainstorm and reshoot.
wash that off. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Frank, what would you? I agree with your suggestion, just because you always get good clouds after rain. But Frank, what specifically are you looking for?
Less whitewash.
Yeah. I didn't try to take it all out. I mean, I think you could, but I had to take this one out that was here. So, but here's another iconic place in Redlands. I really like this place. I think everybody does. It's an Instagram favorite. You're always there watching people take selfies. I thought there was a nice flow of light through the umbrellas. But what I thought I would address in here is that the perspective is a bit skewed. You can see it tilting back, and the shadows are dark and the colors are a bit muted. So I think this photo can be enhanced. All I did here was apply the perspective in the transform tool in Lightroom, just using auto, and I think it lifted it up quite a bit here. And I didn't try to do it manually or correct it any more than that. I just took what it gave me there through correcting it a bit. Then I did some basic adjustments. I opened the shadows, decreased the highlights here. I increased the vibrance, increased the texture for the mid-tones there. And I added a little black back in to give it some punch. I also took this one into Topaz denoise for a little noise reduction and sharpening. Like I say, I think I take everything into denoise these days. So, and then I applied a vignette, just the one from Lightroom. And I also applied the vivid color preset from Lightroom. So this was the finished image. It might be too saturated for some people, but I kind of like the extra punch of color there. So, and I think you could even selectively open the shadows a bit more. I think one could continue to work on this a little bit more. So, any questions, suggestions? Also, Bob, I would go back to the alley and shoot from lots of different spots. The entrance gate is really interesting. Shooting straight up there's so many interesting perspectives that I would go back and probably take another, I don't know how many, well, and it probably ended up being hundreds, but I think it's a great place to keep practicing. So.
Good encouragement. Yep. I'm at the alley about once a month.
Yeah. It's just such a cool place to shoot here in Redlands. We're lucky to have it. So and this particular problem, okay, Bob, I'm going to tell you, this was a challenge for me here. So, but one of the things that was challenging is the tools didn't work very well. I would try to clone this out with content aware fill and it would give me a solid dark gray. There was something happening that the Photoshop and Lightroom tools didn't respond as I expected them to, but luckily some did. So first thing I did was just to go into Photoshop to see if I could remove the twigs, which I didn't think added a lot. I had to do it carefully with just the healing brush in very small increments to try to get those twigs out. And then the other thing I did is I used the patch tool to take the eye from this fish over to this fish. And I had to laugh because as soon as I moved it over, it turned blue and yellow. And I thought, well, how cool is that? I don't have to paint in anything. So, but I did actually paint. I don't know if when I say paint, it's literally using the paintbrush, selecting an adjacent color and trying to paint in some of that color there. But I didn't have to do too much about that. But I did add a levels adjustment to kind of brighten it a bit. So, so
Painting in eyeballs
I
is
went
above and
back
beyond.
into Lightroom. Yeah. Well, I was surprised it worked as well as it did. I went back into Lightroom and tried to increase the clarity of this and some other basic adjustments, which you could see on the slider, just, but to give it a little more punch, particularly that eye. I just selected the eye to do that clarity exposure. So then I added dehaze to the eye. I went back again because I thought I tried some presets, but they didn't really add anything to it. But then I thought it was finished, but I thought, well, why don't I have some fun with this? And I decided to move it into a filter program. You could use anything. If it's a cell phone picture, you could use cell phone apps, but I moved into Topaz Glow and tried their various presets such as squiggly lines and did some adjustments, added a stroke and a frame. You can barely see that there's some black there, and came up with this, which I kind of liked actually. So any other comments, questions?
That's a big before and after difference. Well done.
Yeah. Well, the eye was a challenge. So, good. So, of course, and then my next challenge was that I have a wonderful picture, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what could I possibly say about this picture? But if you get really nitpicky, I did find a few little things that I would change, and what some of it was this little brightness here, a little whiteness here, a little brightness over here, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's sort of some stray hairs here. So and there's a murkiness here. If you look close around where Deb masked in the hairs, it kind of has a gray haze over it. So I tried to address those things. And what I really did is took it into Photoshop and just painted away these stray hairs and painted into here with black. Removed the white mark on the front and painted down these a little bit. I leave it up to you guys to decide whether you think it's an improvement or not. Was much more difficult to remove the gray haze over the hair. So I used a combination of painting and burning to protect the highlights to try to darken this area without affecting the hair. I could see that Deb had drawn in some of this hair and some of it was just there. So I think that worked. I think I got a lot of the gray haze out of there, but these hairs probably have to go back in. She would have to go back in and draw those out again because the line got broken a little bit there. But those were the only suggestions I had. I think it's a dramatic photo. I mean, trying to do white hair on a black background was a real challenge. I'm not certain I could have done it, but I thought it was a really beautiful, well done photo.
Do we know, is this studio or
what? My guess is this was at a Renaissance fair and that she added the back background and drew in the hair. I can see if you really look at it really close, nitpicking it, you can see some of the hairs drawn into the black background. So
it was at a Renaissance fair.
Yeah,
and the background was in shade. All I did was darken it a little bit.
It looks good, Deb.
Thank you.
So. And then, of course, I don't know what I did there. I selected it in Lightroom with the brush. I think I was trying to darken it even more. That's what I was doing, trying to burn down. There was still a little bit of gray here, and I was trying to just crisp it up a little bit, and that's where the hairs needed to be addressed, I think. So, but I thought it was wonderful, and I loved the color scheme. So, and then another wonderful picture that I thought, okay, I really like this. And one of the things that I think is so difficult is deciding where to crop something like this, how much of the horse and the rider, and what do you want to make the focus? I liked the fact that the lance was so prominent in this. So I liked the crop. The only thing I might add is maybe just a tiny bit more of the sash of the horse. That would be all, but I liked the crop and I liked that this was so prominent. So the only things that I looked at that I might address is this pink spot here and the brightness of these two spots there. So, but I love the blurred background. I thought it was, I mean, just really an outstanding photo. So I just painted out the pink there, and I did use content aware fill for some of these spots. This one was a little bit bright still, and I leave it up to you guys to decide whether you think it's an improvement or not. So I used content aware fill, healing brush, smudge brush, and then use the brush mask to bring that down the highlights on the spots even more. So, and that's the finished image. So I think this is a little less bright and a little less bright here, but a beautiful shot. So
I like
really
it.
nice,
Thank you.
really nicely done. So those are all my comments. Like Dave, I was glad to participate. Thank everybody for sending in their photos. It was fun to do. It's a challenge, so a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. It is a challenge, and it's, when it's not your photo, it's easier to see, the edits that you would make.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, I have to say, yeah, it's very hard to see any edits I would make on Deborah's, but a couple things.
It is. All right. Can you see my photos?
Yes.
Okay, good. This is Wayne sent in several. Wayne, which dog show were you at?
It's called the Jack Bradshaw Dog Show, and it's 5 days long on Memorial Day weekend. And this was Saturday.
That's fantastic. And did you stay for more than one day?
No, just the morning of one day. Yeah.
Got it. And it looks, was it pretty overcast?
It
Because I'm not
was.
seeing any yeah, there's no shadows in these photos.
Yeah, the day before it was like 90 degrees, but this day was clouds were hovering and it was pretty good light.
That's terrific. On this photo in particular, I didn't have much in ways of edit. I'm assuming that this would be into a a photojournalism type category. My only suggestion would be in terms of, if you, as the photographer, trying to maybe trying some different angles possibly. In terms of a focus, my eye was drawn to this pole on the right, coming out of the person's head. And that's, just, moving just a few inches to the left, to the right. It's so, as a photographer, it's so easy to get concentrated on what's right in front of you, especially when it's moving. When you have a moving target, it's that much trickier, but also, the people in the background. And I don't know if you would have moved to the left, if the dog was coming around, or this was the only place to stand. But I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful image and well edited on there. So I didn't have much to say on that, on this particular image. Frank, you got anything that you're seeing? Or Dave Fickey?
Frank's muted.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Okay, I would have cropped it, the subject is the woman and the dog. So I would have cropped that, and yeah, that's a problem with the speakers in the background, but still I would have cropped this right here and taken out all the rest.
Yeah, just to bring it in. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sorry, my space bar wasn't working to unmute me before.
That's all right.
I think you've had some good suggestions, Wayne. The only thing I could think of is try lying on the ground and see how much of that background you could eliminate that way.
Ah, I didn't think about that.
Provided you can get up, Wayne.
Yeah, it's it is a really busy shot. There's no question.
Yep. Now this next shot I thought was much cleaner in terms of its composition. You can't really crop this one at all. left or right because you've got those two beautiful tails. I just love those tails. As I was looking, when I was coming in, again, same thing. You've got people in the background, but this is an event and you're going to have that. But when I zoomed in on this photo, I noticed a ton of color noise. And I was I would be very curious to see what your settings were on this, Wayne. But you had a ton of color noise. So what I did was I went into Lightroom and just moved the color noise slider down. And that took away, you could see it here on the close-up. You could see it in both the dog's fur
Oh, yeah.
and the lady's dress. And so I used that color noise and it just took it right out. And so I would think that there's something your settings weren't right on your camera to begin with. Maybe it was underexposed or something that you had to pull out, to brighten it up so much to have that noise in there.
Yeah, I think I was shooting ISO 800 or something like that to try to freeze it up a little bit. But I think my camera has a little bit of a tendency to pull color noise.
Right. And this is where when you're shooting the moving dogs, 800 stationary dogs, don't be afraid to bring that down to 400, 200.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Different angles or different settings for different situations.
Can I make a suggestion, Wayne?
Yes, please.
You can buy a Z62 or a Z9, and that'll help out a lot.
Okay.
Or Wayne, you could just purchase denoise from Topaz and that'll help a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not quite the same.
Hey, Dave, can I borrow your checkbook?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I have no checks left, but sure, no problem.
Yes. This is where, new equipment or new software will always fix the problem, or maybe not. Now this shot, Wayne, you sent this as a just a fun after shot, but man, oh man, I thought this was the best of the bunch. Dog waiting here, but I thought if this moved to a humor category, we would take it out of the category of photojournalism, which would allow us to make some edits. So I went ahead and took that liberty for you, took out some of these distractions, and then cropped the top there. I wanted to see what it would look like, just cropped in on the dog, but I think we missed that it's an outhouse necessarily. So I went back to the original crop there, but I thought this would win some sort of humor category. This is golden.
Yeah.
Very, very fun. Any other comments on this one? Because I was just howling.
I'd be inclined to crop out that white vehicle.
Yeah, Frank, I was thinking about that, but I wasn't sure what to replace it with. We just crop it out?
Yeah, try.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see that gone. I didn't think about that, but I thought about it, but I didn't do anything about it. How's that?
Yeah. Any good captions for this?
I personally think we're going to the dogs.
Next.
There's some good number one or number two jokes in there somewhere. some good dog potty humor. I love it. This just cracked me up. Now, Russ, you sent this image here, and where were you when you took this?
Took this in Tennessee. It was at Laurel Falls in the Smoky Mountain National Park.
Wow, would love to get there.
When I'm looking at Lower
at
Falls, you can see almost at the top the Upper Falls. So this was the Lower Falls.
Got it. You have beautiful, shutter speed that allows you to catch that milky whiteness of the running falls. Not too much, not too little. I always look at when I'm looking, I look top to bottom, left to right, and I look at see what does my eye snag on. And these were the areas that I saw as I was going through that hit my eye stopped when I looked at there and didn't think that, by taking them out, you would see them. And when I was looking further, it's like, hey, there was somebody actually on that rock at some time and they moved. And that would be easy, very easy to clone out. And so I just cloned out those areas, just cleaned it up just a little bit from that standpoint. And then with an image like this, I find that it's fun to try it in black and white. May not end up staying there, but as a black and white image, I think it's quite dramatic. Color or black and white. You sent a video, and I think I could share it, but I'm not sure since I don't want to stop the share since I'm on a roll. But you've got a nice video of this location as well. And the sound is just beautiful.
If you like, I'll
Dave or
pull up the
Debbie or
video
Frank, you
later
got the.
for you, Bruce.
Oh, you know me, I'd spend a lot of time on it. It looks nice, Russ. I'd be dodging and burning and painting and.
It's a wonderful shot, Russ. You've
Yeah.
had some good advice.
Yeah.
The only suggestion I would offer is try warming it up a little bit and see how that looks to you. It's of course your choice in the final analysis, but it's worth thinking.
Yeah, give it a little punch of something, a little punch somehow. But,
Thank you all for your
Just,
comments.
Turn up
Appreciate
the
that.
color, Tim.
That last piece.
I thank you all for your comments and suggestions. They were very helpful.
And it's interesting when somebody else looks at your photos. Okay, you also sent in this photo, and this was an interesting choice to send in. Obvious being in terms of what a distractive element to my eye not being here. So I didn't have the benefit of going to this fair. Where was this fair? Also in Tennessee?
This was in Gatlinburg, and it just so happened to be at sunset. And so the sun was going off to the right, but I liked the way that it was lit up. And I like the background of the clouds in the back. Yeah, there are a few distractions, but I like to give you guys some opportunities to comment about things that you would change. So,
well, I saw an opportunity and I took it. So, first thing I would do would just using the heel brush in Photoshop, take those, take the electrical lines down. And I find that editing is like peeling an onion. Once you take out one distraction, then all of a sudden other ones just start popping out at you. And so I thought, well, shoot, if I could take the ones going left and right, I could certainly take out these pieces there. So I went ahead and cropped in. I used the clone tool to take out the lights on the bottom right, and then use the clone tool again, or not the clone, the heel tool, and just took that pole right out. And so that took that out. I thought there was still a little bit too much sky in there and went ahead and bumped up the contrast a little bit. And this would be my final edit on from what you sent.
one of the comments I'd like to make about this image was, I did not take this with my D850. I took this with my iPhone.
Aha.
Ah,
Now, were you on you were elevated somehow? What was just a house overlooking, or where were you?
Oh, I was in a parking lot opposite of this, but it was further away from the parking lot. So that's why you saw a wider berth in the wideness of the image. And, but it was still a fair distance away. So, but I just like the way that it looked, and I like the the light in the background, and so I snapped the image, you know. I wish I could have been back
Nice.
there another day. I would have gone there and tried to get it another way.
Well, so many phones or so many pictures are snapped with smartphones, and I'm a big believer.
Russ, this just popped into my head. On the last of your images, the Ferris wheel, if you're looking for a humorous title, how about Ferris Wheeler's Day Off?
I like that.
Stephanie sent in a couple more images, and this was, I don't know where she was, but I wanted to be there. This is just looks so peaceful in terms of a location. And when I started to look at this image a little bit closer, one of the things that I noticed was that, you know, your eyes are drawn to what's brightest, and what's brightest in this case is the fence. And so I thought that was, what's darkest is the house, and really the fence is intended to be a leading line towards the house, but I think that its brightness competed with it. So I went ahead and cropped that in a little bit. Again, looking at that lighter and darkness, went ahead and swapped really made used a radial brush and lightened the right and darkened the left. Because I did, this was a JPEG, I wasn't able to do as much as I wanted to. I could have dodged that top fence there, but still I was distracted personally with this large space here. And so I went and changed the aspect ratio and brought it in. Now you lose the fence in this case, which I know she took so much time to show much care to take, that I thought the house was the major story. But this goes again to, you know, what is the purpose, and, you know, what's your vision of the photo? You know, you may be you may be doing a series of fences, and so that's really supposed to be the emphasis. This was just my take based on what I saw. Frank, what are you seeing?
I like what you've done, and I particularly appreciate that you've left the dogwood in there. I'm wondering if you couldn't go more panoramic than you have in your final crop to get back some of that fence.
Mm-hmm. That's certainly a possibility. If we look here, come down on the top and come up a little bit. I really like the, yeah, I did take a lot of that out, but I left in just a little bit. But you're right, you could go much, there's a lot to the left that I cropped out. Yeah, there's hardly any fence there, which again, just one person's take on an image. This was a second image that she sent in, and I like it almost. I like it as is, but I wanted to go ahead and try some things. You can tell here that this was done with a wide angle lens, based on the angles. These things should be straight up and down, that they're a little bit warped. I also found the upper right just to be a little bit distracting. Went ahead and used the straighten tool, and then decided to add some more grunge to it, so added some more clarity. Then I took a brush and darkened the background, but I didn't like it, and so I went back and left it straightened. But I thought that the roof was actually a good part of that image, which I appreciated. And that was my only edits on this one. Any other suggestions?
I have a question. You use the straighten tool in Photoshop, Bruce. Is that preferable to using the transform tool in Lightroom?
I didn't bring any. I only bring my own photos into Lightroom, so this was somebody else's, so I just brought it into Photoshop. It was just more convenient tool for me.
You know, you can use a straighten tool in the crop in Lightroom. There's a ruler, like, so you could use the straighten tool, or you can use in the transform tools, you can do it manually or auto or horizontal, vertical, but there is a straighten tool in the crop part of Lightroom.
Right. This I used a perspective warp
Yeah.
on there. And that wraps up the photos that we have. And it's a fun opportunity to look at other people's photos, to to give your 2 cents, and hopefully, I was just, I was amazed at what topaz denoise. So I've looked at it before, but now I'm going to take a
AR
a
sharpen.
second look.
I actually, for the bird, it was AI sharpen, but I use denoise a lot as well. So, but the AI sharpen was pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
a tool that I
Yeah.
was encouraged to take a further look at.
Yeah.
And just a reminder, that, cropping matters and not to be afraid to, use unusual, just because it's a 8x10 or 5x7, if that doesn't fit your vision, go with something else. And so thank you, everybody who was able
Bruce.
to. There we go. I'm not sure the sound is coming through, but it's a beautiful picture of the falls.
I won't bore you with the whole minute. I just thought it was really very nice just to hear the water flowing and to see how it was coming over, cascading over the rocks and down the fall. I just thought it was really nice.
Well, thank you. Hopefully this has inspired you for take a look at your own photos, to enter the photo competition, and look forward to seeing your images in the competition.
I like that, Frank. That sounds really good.
Hey, Russ, can I mention something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just, I mentioned it last meeting, but probably some of the people weren't there, but that canvaspeople.com, if you're interested in printing canvases, they're running like these incredible sales of 90% off, 94% off, or free. They do charge you $20 for shipping and handling. So, but you can get, pretty good size canvas print for $25, $30. So if anybody's interested, canvaspeople.com.
Hey, thank you, Wayne. That's a really good suggestion. Nice. Any other comments about this evening? Well, I want to thank all that has taken the time to submit images for it. I hope all of you learned something. I do appreciate all the work and fine photography that all of you do and you share with us. It's nice to see other people's work.
Oh, thank you.
And to say, mine's in my closet.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop the recording because we're done with the